Chapter 5 The Enclosed Garden. Begin all acts and thinking by using Al-Kalumdi All. Tablet 1. The formation of Cadman and Nekeba. 19 times 3 equals 57. Lo! En ruler of the key earth Enki, commanded the Anunnaki Nusku, who bore the title Gabriel, to form the body of Cadman, who was taken from the dust of the ground. Adama created of clay black mud, blood clot cell, and fashioned into shape and cloned. This was the Adama project. Being the mud was of the earth, he was called Adam, which means Adama the ground. This is speaking of his physical creation and making. Being there was already life in the soil of the ground, it wasn't the creation of life itself. The mud and clay is symbolic of the contents of the blood or the clot. Dehydrated blood turns into brown dust particles, and this is how the hematologist would transport blood to be reactivated, by simply mixing the water together for life. Thus, you have man being created of dust, man being created of water, dust and water, or earth and water becomes mud, the clot. The extracts from that clot or blood is necessary for the cloning process. With this procedure, the Anunnaki Nusku proceeded on wings of haste from his dwelling place in Orion, traversing the constellation of the skies and elemental orbs. Upon arriving on the surface of the planet Earth, then called Terra, Tirawat, Tamara, Nusku went to the rulers of the Adamite and Kuthite tribes by the far two rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates, where they were living with the fallen Anunnaki, known as the Luciferians or Wayans, to ask their King Autumn and Queen Lilith if they would let them breed a seed from them. Mother Earth, as she Lilith was called, refused. Nusku stretched his hand to execute the command he had received from Enki, the ruler of Earth. This fearful attempt moved the vapors imprisoned in the bowels of the planet Earth, and it caused a terrible earthquake and strife between the elders and the seed of Autumn, father of Cadman. The soil inquired of this Anunnaki, the angelic being Gabriel, who replied, El Elo, one of the Elohim, the sustainer of glory, intended to create a primitive worker from you, to dignify his head with the daedom, the crown or royal headband of successorship, or caliphship, to rule Ki in Enki's place, and to adorn his stature with nobility. The earth Automites enjoined, I have refuge with El from you. I adjure you by El-Rab the Sustainer to desist from this purpose, lest he create me an individual who would, like the sons of the disagreeable beings, attempt the stratagems of disobedience, and would consequently be punished and condemned. I have not the power to resist the wrath of El Elo, the punishment of Anu Elion Elion El, the Most High Ruler. The Anunnaki Gabriel heard the entreaties of the earth people Automites, the Kuthites, and he sympathized with their helplessness, and returned by the same way he descended, and laid his information before El-Rab of glory. By the permission of the creator of mortal beings, the Anunnaki Mikael, son of Enki and Dankina, likewise returned. He also descended upon the planet Earth. The same conversation took place between him and the planet Earth people as with Gabriel, son of Raziel and Zamiel. The Anunnaki Mikael likewise returned. Then, the Anunnaki Enki, son of Anu and Id, who bore the title Israel, was on the same errand. The planet Earth people, King Autumn of the Kuthites, again implored and began to lament and to cry. Enki said, It is more incumbent upon me to obey the Nourisher than to take pity on you. Accordingly, he collected a handful of black mud and blood cells, and he cloned the Adam that was acting on the part of the Sustainer and Creator himself. Then, the Rabbiuna or elders now moved the disagreeable mortals Autumn and his wife Lilith into the city of Salam in Kodesh from the Tigris and Euphrates Valley to breed a son. Also, the agreeable mortals Fatah and his wife Hanif were taken from the White and Blue Nile to Nippur, which is one of the cities in Kodesh, and this was for the purpose to breed a daughter. They were placed in different places, so they, Cadman and Nekeba, wouldn't know each other until they were at the right age, 21 for him and 18 for her. After the birth of a daughter of mixed seed, for her seed or blood was from Cadman's own marrow, bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh, and they called her Nekeba, who was also mixed with a Kishite from Fatah and a Havilevite from Anaph, who were her parents. The actual genetic breeding and splicing of the cells of Cadman began and was done in the laboratory on the planet Lathmu, Mars, in the laboratory Shimti. Thus, it is said Cadman was created in the heavens before the earth. How was this great task undertaken? When the scientists took the seed of Ninti and bred her with Adiru, the Homo sapien, the 16th seed of the Adama project, after taking genus Homo to Homo erectus to Homo sapien, the Homo sapien was mixed with the seed of the Anunnakis. This was the process. When this new seed of Ninti and Adiru was ready for transport from the heavens to key Earth, it was brought down to the planet Earth, and this gene or cell was genetically spliced into the DNA of Autumn, the ruler of the Adamites, and also into the DNA of Fatah, the ruler of the Kishites. In time, Fatah gave birth to the daughter called Nekeba, meaning tribal leader, and before that, Autumn gave birth to the son called Cadman, meaning up front. How was this great task undertaken? While Cadman was yet a baby of 2 years of age, before this very birth of Nekeba, the chemists Anunnaki, Nergal and Ereshkigal had perfected the gene of Cadman to make his offspring, bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh. So he was put into a deep sleep state, and the chemists went into the marrow of his bone, and they extracted a cell from his blood to create his counterpart Nekeba. These newly formed beings were to be placed in the habitat called the enclosed garden, one of the many, and at a certain age to be watched and groomed. And you should always remember the birth of our mother Nekeba, for she is the mother of mothers, and her birthday shall be celebrated in the month of May, the 10th day. At age 21, Cadman was moved without clothes to the enclosed garden called Eden, located in Bali. At age 18, Nekeba was moved to the same enclosed garden, and she was without clothes or shame. Comprised of different colours and properties from the surface of the planet Earth, and having mixed all parts together, the birth of Cadman, called the ground Adama, was formed as black as an olive, as black as the shadow hour in the skin tone of the original Asiatic black man, the Hindu, yet with reddish skin colour, thus the name Adam or Edom, red and ruddy. When Enki the Elohim Israel arrived in the glorious place of the Anunnaki Elohim, he was asked whether the planet Earth people had this time taken refuge with himself or not. Enki replied yes. El-Rab said, "If it took refuge from you, why did you not spare it?" Enki replied, "It deemed obedience to you more necessary than pity for it." Anu Elion Elion El, the Most High, continued, "Depart, for I have made you the Anunnaki of death, in an ether form for all times. I have placed the taking of the soul of Cadman and his seed into your power." At these words, the Anunnaki Israel began to weep, saying, "Amongst the children of Cadman, called the Adamites and Enoshites, there will be news-bearers who will undoubtedly hate me on this account." However, Anu Elion Elion El rejoined, "I shall send many complaints and diseases upon the Adamites. They will not hate you, and none of their deeds will be a cause of grief to you. But this loud lamentation is forbidden, but there is no harm in weeping for the dead, yet patience is better. It is a curse upon the people who wail, and those around them who listen to them." Tablet 2, the 4 rivers. 19 times 8 equals 152. Lo, of the rivers, a river flows out of the sight of delight in order to irrigate the enclosed garden of delight, and from over there it separated and became 4 rivers. The name of the first river is the White Nile or Gihon. It is the one that surrounds the whole part of the planet Earth, Ethiopia, the land of old Nubia called Havilah, where there is gold. The gold of that part of the earth is very rich also. In Nubia there can be found gum, resin, pearls, and also onyx stone. The name of the second river is the Blue Nile, Pishon. It is the same one that surrounds the whole part of the planet Earth, of those ancient Kushites, Blackskins, Kishites of Eridu, in the Sumerian land, where the Anunnaki came down to Earth. The name of the first is Tigris, rapid stream. It is the one flowing eastward towards the land of the ancient Ashurites to widen. The fourth is the Euphrates River, breaking off. Between these rivers did the ancient tribe of Kish from the skies, later Cush, migrated and settled. It is the same river that surrounds the whole part of the planet Earth. Before these rivers and streams flowed into the cracks and crevices of the dry land, whose surrounding source was called oceans, it was one water mass for the whole planet Earth. These same ancient Kushites became Blackskins or Kishites by the rusting in their blood. These Kishites was one of the 14th tribe of Anunnaki that came down from the planet ship Nibiru that was launched from the 8th planet Risk from the 19th galaxy Yaa-Nun. When they arrived here and they set up the first kingdoms of Eridu and the first temple called Obeid, the 14 tribes broke into two sets of 300. The disagreeable 300 called Anakites and the agreeable called the Anunnaki of the 7 tribes of Anunnaki. Between the two rivers of Tigris and Euphrates was the original land of Kish established. These two rivers were also occupied by one of the 7 disagreeable tribes of Anakites. The original Kishites later migrated north then west through Ashkelon, known as Akabulan, to join the other 7 agreeable Anunnaki, and on into Kemet, later changed to Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, where names did change. An became Anu, the heavenly one. Ra became El-Elo, when Anamna, the son of Anu, was his Sumerian name, and Enlil was his title, when he came to the planet Earth. Then, even later, he was mistakenly called Usir. The Greeks called him Osiris, as did those of Babel, who called him Dumuzi, and this is what they sang of him. Homage to you, Usir, master of eternity, ruler of the earthly Anahum, whose names were manifold, whose forms are holy. You are a being of hidden form in the temples, whose etheric being is holy. You are the governor of Tatu, known as Busiris, and also the mighty one in Sekhem, later called Letopolis. The mighty one, the powerful one, holder of the staff of office, the wand of power, the symbol of the ruler of the stars of the heavens. You are the master to whom praises are ascribed in the province of Ati. You are the prince of divine food in Anu, later called Heliopolis. You are the master who is commemorated in Mati, the hidden soul, the master of Adu, Elephantine. He who sees all as the sun sees, Ra. He is the birth of the sun, the strength of the sun, and the death of the sun, the ruler supreme in the white wall of Memphis. You are the master of the great house in Kemenu, later called Hermiopolis. You are the mighty one of victories in Shashhetep, the master of eternity, the governor of Abydos, Upper Egypt originally called Kemet, land of the Nubians. The path of his throne is in Tar-Chessa, a part of Abydos. Your name is established in the mouths of Enoshites. You are the substance of the 2 lands, Mitzrayim, Kemet. You are them, the feeder of the cow, Doubles, the governor of the company of earthly Anunnaki. You are the beneficent spirit amongst the spirits, the Anu of the celestial ocean Nun, the great water, which will rise up and engulf the whole planet Earth, which drew from you his waters. You send forth the north wind at eventide, and the breath from your nostrils to the satisfaction of your heart. Your heart renews its youth, and you can produce the life of deities. The stars in the celestial heights are obedient unto you, and the great doors of the sky open themselves before you. You are he to whom praises are ascribed in the 7th heaven, and thanks are given to you in the northern heavens. The imperishable stars are under your supervision, and the stars which never set are your thrones. Offerings appear before you at the decree of Keb. The companies of the earthly Anunnaki praise you, and the disagreeable Anunnaki of the Taut, which is the other world, smell the earth in paying homage to you. The uttermost parts of the planet Earth bow before you, and the limits of the skies entreat you with supplications when they see you. Anunnaki, Anunnaki, who are of the holy ones, are overcome before you, and all the Kemetites offer thanksgiving to you when it meets your majesty. You are the shining spirit body in Anunnaki, the governor of the Anunnaki spirit bodies. Permanent is your rank, established is your rule. You are the well-doing power of the company of Anunnaki. Gracious is your face, and beloved by Anu, Elion, Elion El that sees it. Your fear is set in the lands by the reason of your perfect love, and they cry out to your name, making it the first of names, and all peoples make offerings to you. You are the master who is commemorated in heaven and upon the planet Earth. Many are the cries which are made to you at the Uak festival, and with one heart and voice Kemet raises cries of joy to you. You are the great chief, the first amongst your brethren, the prince of the company of earthly Anunnaki, the establisher of the right and truth throughout the world, the son who sat on the great throne of his father Keb. You are the beloved of your mother Nut, the daughter of Shu and Tefnut, the mighty one of valor who overthrew the Cebu fiend. You did stand up and smite your enemy, and set your fear in your adversary. You do bring the boundaries of the mountains. Your heart is fixed, your legs are set firm. You are the heir of Keb, and of the sovereignty of the two lands of Kemet called Mitzrayim. He, Keb, has seen his splendors. He has decreed for him the guidance of the world by your hand as long as times endure. You have made this key earth with your hands, and Tiamat the waters, the winds, and the vegetation, and all the cattle, and all the feathered fowl, and all the fish, and all the creeping things, and all the wild animals thereof. The desert is the lawful possession of the son of Nut. The two lands of Mitzrayim are content to crown you upon the throne of your father like Ra. You roll up into the horizon, you have set the sun's light to overpower the absence of light, and you send forth air from your plumes, and you flood the two lands like the disk at daybreak. Your crown penetrates the height of heaven. You are the companion of the stars, and the guide of every Sarufat. You are the beneficent one in decree and speech, the favored one of the great company of Anunnaki, and the beloved of the little company of human Anunnaki. His sister in faith was Aset, known as Ishtar and Inanna, who has protected him and has repulsed the fiends and turned aside calamities of evil from him. She uttered the spell of Kingu called Leviathan with the magical power of her mouth. Her tongue was perfect, and it never halted at a word. Beneficent in command, and word was Aset, falsely called Isis, the woman Ishtar of magical spells, the advocate of her brother in faith. She sought him untiringly. She wandered round and around about this planet Earth in sorrow, and she alighted not without finding him. She made light with her feathers, and she created air with her wings, and she uttered the death wail for her brother in faith. She raised up the inactive members of whose heart was still. She drew from his essence, and she made an heir. She reared the child in loneliness, in the place where he was not known, and he grew in strength and stature, and his hand was mighty in the house of Keb. The company of the Anunnaki rejoiced at the coming of Ha, falsely called Horus. This Horus was the son of Osiris and Isis. Osiris was the son of Geb and Nut, and the grandson of Amun-Ra. This Horus has a fight with his brother Set, who ripped out his left eye. Thus you have the evil eye. Now the grandson of Horus was also named Horus, and his eye, the right eye, symbolizes the sun, for his great-grandfather Amun-Ra. His left symbolizes the moon, for his mother Isis, also called Dina. Tammuz, the son of Dumuzi or Usir, who is falsely called Osiris, whose heart was firm, is not to be mistaken with Enlil, who also bore the title Dumuzi. The triumphant, the son of Isis, who is Ishtar, the heir of Osiris, who is really Usir and Dumuzi. Yahweh, he is known by the Hebrew Ra was his name in Kemet, and where Nodimud, known as Enki, became Set in Kemet, where Ishtar became Aset, and later Isis, and this Aset and Usir, known as Dumuzi, did give birth to Tammuz, who is also falsely known as Horus to the Greeks, and Ha in Kemet, the original name of Egypt. From this name Horus do we get horoscope or Horus, who scopes the stars of the heaven, and horizon, which is Horus rising from the darkest or dead. In Greek it's Huios, simply meaning sun. Your raising from the dead or resurrection of the Son of God is born in these facts. He is also known as HaMashiach in Hebrew, whose father was David the Beloved. He is also known as Christ the Messiah of the Christians, whose father is Jehovah, Al-Masir of the Mohammedans, whose father is Gabriel the Holy Ghost, El Shaddai in the Torah of Genesis, and Christos son of Theos in the Evangel of Revelations, Al-Shadidu in the Quran. This is what the change in tongues from cuneiform to Akkadian did. Then, into many tongues it caused to come into being, where the names and dates were changed to confuse those who read its babbling. The original Kishite descendants migrated from the land of Kodesh, where in time they did mix with the seed of Utnapishtim, also called Noah, making his genes perfect by a mixture of the Elohim and the Enoshites. Through Utnapishtim's son Ham, Cush the son of Ham was born. This son was named after his Sumer descendants Kish, which is another name for Cush, who he travelled with his brother Mitzrayim on foot, leaving the albino Canaanite born in the ship that did hover above the earth. Canaan dwelt amongst the disagreeable. Cush, Mitzrayim and Foot crossed through Ashkelon and said of the Canaanites who hid what they knew to be true, they were to answer then in this way, say, O you, Al-Kafarun, those who conceal what they know to be the facts, right knowledge. I am not a slave to what you are a slave to, and you are not a slave for him whom I am a slave for, Al-Ali Anu. And I am not a slave of what you're a slave for, spook gods, shrines and Kaabas. And you are not slaving for him who I am slaving for, Al-Ali Anu. You have your deen way of life decision, and I will have mine. Mitzrayim settled northeast, Foot moved further west, Kish moved down southward to set up the land of Kish today, called Nubia, Sudan, and even to Axum, Ethiopia, the land of the Nubans. Tablet 3, the enclosed garden, 19 times 2 equals 38. Lo, first you must live and rule in this enclosed garden of delight, located in Bali, which is located in Indonesia, the Asiatic India. It is a duplicate of our own abode, the enclosed garden of Kodesh, the most holy place. Kadmon, then being 21 years of age, Anu commanded that he live in the enclosed garden as an enclosed habitat, because he was against unruly activity and lustful sexual acts for purposes other than the prescribed periods of reproduction. O Kadmon, you must live in it, take care of all that is in it, but beware of this Luciferian, a reptilian named Nakash, who is part Anunnaki and part reptilian, being the son of the reptilian Humbaba and the Anunnaki Melita. O Kadmon, it's up to you to inform the Kaaba when she arrives of his disagreeable ways, and if you see this tablet, the Akasha records, under the tree in the midst of the garden, don't eat of its fruits and don't even touch it. And the Yahweh of the Anunnaki ordered Arazu, also spelled Arazu, to build the foundation of this garden. And the Anunnaki Kaukael, also known as Uriel, son of Araziel and Raphikiel, said, Look, you have been given every herb with a yielding seed, which is on the surface of the whole planet Earth, and every tree which yields fruit, and has its own seed to reproduce. It is in the enclosed garden of delight, just for you, Kadmon. Inform your mate of these things which I command, and inform that all of this is for your consumption, and to every living animal of the planet Earth, and to every bird of the skies and birds of the ground, and to everything that swims on the planet Earth in which there is a living soul. You are the ruler of it, as we rule over you. And El Elo rules us, and El Kalum the All rules all things. And El Elo, the Yahuwah of the Elohim, transported Kadmon from Kodesh to Bali, and allowed him to stay in the enclosed garden of delight, to be a slave and to preserve it, that they, the Elohim, may observe the obedience or disobedience of this being, made in their image and after their likeness. And El Elo, the Yahuwah of the Elohim, made the first commandment for the Adamites, and tested their nature. Are they destined to disobey and seek to overthrow the gods, saying, You may eat without cost of any tree in the enclosed garden. However, of that special tree of hallucination that's in the center, you are not to eat from it. For in the very same day that you eat from it, you will be destined to die. And this Yahuwah of the Anunnaki Kaukael said to them, It's not right that Kadmon should be separated from the Kaaba, who is also called Hawa or Eve. I will bring his helper for him to see. And out of Adama the ground, Yahuwah of the Anunnaki formed every living thing of that part of the outer field, outside of the enclosed garden, every bird of the air and birds of the land, all the flocks of which Leha was responsible for. And he brought them into the enclosed garden unto Kadmon, who is also called Zakar and Adam, just to see what he would name them. And whatever Kadmon named every living spirit, that became its name. And Kadmon named all the non-speaking mammals, and all the birds, and all that lives in the sea. which were originally from the outer part of the world called Sauda, the outer fields, which in time became known as Sudan. But as for Cadmon, the earthling called Adam, who is also known as Zakar, he did not have his counterpart or mate yet, for it was not time for him to know Nekeba, who was bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh. Remember, my child, this great task was done when Cadmon was yet still a baby of 2 years old. Yahuwah of the Anunnaki had Cadmon sedated, and the great chemist Nergal, son of Enki, performed the brain surgery of gene splicing to maim him. Cadmon was put in a coma state. The chemist Nergal went into his rib bone marrow to take cells from the blood of Cadmon to mix it in order to create Nekeba, also called Hawa or Eve, who was destined to be the mate of Cadmon. The chemist Nergal Sharasta, Enki, Ninti and Ereshkigal took from Cadmon's X and Y chromosomes. They took one of the X chromosomes and closed up the wound in his ribcage. From the X chromosome, which Yahuwah of the Anunnaki ordered the great scientist Nergal Sharasta to take from Cadmon, he genetically bred in the genes of Fatah, the Kishite of the Bushman tribe, and Anaf of the Havilavite Dogon tribes, a female child Nekeba, and brought her to Nippur in Kadesh. And at age 18, when it was time for her to know Cadmon, she was brought unto the enclosed garden to Cadmon to be his mate. Cadmon said to the Anunnaki Kalkiel, who is also called Uriel, Nekeba is also of my very own flesh and bone transplant, because she was taken out of my very genes. She is Nekeba, was shaped and formed out of the ground, Adama, of the planet Earth, Adamites. This was a form of incest, insofar as Nekeba was of the blood of Cadmon, making her his daughter. The highest law states an Adamite is supposed to leave his tribe, Kuthites, Automites, the Hindus, and to join his mate's tribe, Kushites, the Dogon, and they are to become the same tribe, Adamites. Cadmon and Nekeba were in the enclosed garden of Bali, where they knew no shame, they were naked.